What in God's name is that from Thorin?
Right, this is going to be another episode of Snake and Banter, and our guest for this one is going to be apEX. It's only a major winner, Mauisnake. Listen, when I reach in the Rolodex, I just fucking trip over and just get tier one guests, It's not like certain podcasts where, they show the outline and you're like, oh, who is the guest? And it's just one of them. They're just like, actually, we just didn't have a guest this week. I never understood why they do that. It's basically like you just rug pulled your own fans. But all right, I guess that's one way to run this fucking game. Right.
For the engagement.
It is, I know, it's just attention whoring in it, especially because there's always people who are like, I know exactly who that outline is, and it's not that person at all. It's like, I don't know what you're doing, mate. You could just get Photoshop and literally overlay them, and if it's not the same, it's not the same, is it? Like, those are actually the easiest to ever figure out in it. But, right, and you can usually figure it out from the haircut, quite frankly. Here's what we're going to do for this one, apEX. So the way this show works is basically, it's actually Mauisnake's concept. Where we do the whole good, bad and ugly is essentially just a clever way to frame the show. Like it's like if it was just a normal podcast anyway, but it's the way we come up with the points. So we always have the guest go first with them, first, because we want to give you the freshest chance, and if any of ours double up or something, we'll change him on the spot. So we'll do the good, bad and the ugly in that order as well. We'll start with the good. So what did you pick at apEX as your good topic? What's good for you at the moment?
Well, I want to talk about ourselves. I just put...
It's a bit self-indulgent, but okay.
Us, Vitality, finally went through the group stage in EPL after 5 times, which is a good sign for once.
Oh, did you fail the last EPLs, or do you mean at this one you have to do it?
Yeah, kinda. Yeah, we had different moments in the season, but yeah, we failed all 4 times. We had 3 online, obviously,
yes,
and 1 on LAN. But it's always a tournament that we failed, and finally the goal was to go through, and we did it.
Oh yes, actually, I forgot that. I was completely forgetting because I was thinking, what LAN one have you played? It was obviously the one at the end of 2019, which if people don't remember, was the one where, off the top of my head, didn't you guys just lose to Navi or something ridiculous? Didn't you lose to some top team?
Yeah, we did lose to Fnatic, but they had standing.
And they went to the final, obviously. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know. Exactly.
And NiP as well at that moment.
That one's a bit less forgivable. So, maybe you deserve that one. Right, okay, what about this though, apEX? When you say that, Mauisnake's got a Vitality one as well, but it's technically different. Yours is the fact that you finally went through the, essentially, out of the group stage after you say 5 attempts. What is the significance of that to you, apEX? Is there a reason why this one tournament, do you think, has been a problem for Vitality? You've been so good at all the other tournaments. Last year, you were in every semi-final, mate. What's the problem with this one tournament, do you think? Is it the format? What is it?
Well, I'm not sure, to be honest. The format was pretty bad last year because we had 5 games in 2 weeks or something.
Right.
You never have a good time to rest, etc. So I felt that wasn't the best case. But now that we play 5 games in a row is better. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe last year, the last time was at moments where we were not at our top. And always happen in EPL moments, unfortunately. But I have another tournament like that, IM Katowice. I never had good run there.
Sure.
Only the first time I played it in 2014 was a quarterfinal, but that's the best I did. So I don't know, maybe there is a curse with me with some tournaments, but I finally broke it.
There you go. Right. What do you think about that, Mauisnake? Like I say, you've done the show long enough, mate. You know how to separate this from yours, which is a little bit similar. What do you think on this?
I think, I'm curious if you think that the draw of this group is somehow better than maybe other draws you had at previous EPLs. I think you guys just handled it though.
To be honest, a lot of people said that the group wasn't as good as the others. But, we had Ends, for example, in the group last time as well, and they always doing good job in EPL groups. Last time they went through, this time they went through over Astralis. Yes. So, obviously, we had bad newbies that are not a top team, and that's the true shit right now, unfortunately for them. But the rest could have been surprised any other team with Spirits. They most of the time, they will go through the group stage as well, Ends, Erik, Astralis. For Astralis, it's a bit different because they have a new player. They're playing with Lucky now, and he's really young, and they have to adapt. Something I know pretty well. And but I don't know. It's just about us how we put the tournament together, and that what we wanted from this tournament. Just go through and give it all. So we try to put our mind in in that goal.
So when did you start preparing for EPL? Because there was obviously a player break right before this. Did you guys? Yeah. When did you guys start prepping?
Well, we started just a week before, a week of bootcamp together, a huge week. I mean, we played 6 days in a row and then a day of rest and the 5 games of EPL. We didn't want to do more because we already had our vacation plan for everyone, so that wasn't easy to do something else. And we knew at the last moment that we were the Group A, so the first to play. So we just had a week. I started a bit before to prepare everything on my side with the coach and myself for the basics of our games and adding stuff or like talking stuff, etc. But yeah, we just had a week of preparation, a good one actually, and it worked up so pretty well.
It's actually weird, by the way, that I've noticed that is a trend with players, even who have very long careers, is there's usually like a tournament. Funnily enough, there's usually a tournament that everyone does really well at. Like this one always feels like, you know, the format, whatever it might be, the location, might be the fact that, I think probably also the fact that if you do well in one, in your mind, you think it is your home tournament. But there's always as well the one where like people do badly. Like probably the maddest one ever, people know this detail, is that fucking Astralis never won an ESL 1 event. It doesn't actually seem possible when you say that out loud, does it? It seems like, how can that be real? And also the idea they never won Cologne as well is again mental in it, like the idea, because they are going to be considered the greatest team ever, and on paper Cologne's supposed to be the best event, but they never won it. So I always wonder, what do you think on that, apEX? Is part of it, like, obviously in this case, you know, we're talking about different years and even format, different group. Do you think some of it gets in the back of your head? Like if you fail a few times at one tournament, do you sometimes think like, fuck, is this just, am I cursed at this tournament? Is it not for me? Do you actually think about that ever?
I think so. That's why I think about Katowice for myself. I say, yeah, I'm not gonna do it again. Why? I will lose in group stage, so why should I do it? And yeah, it's just mental, I think. And I mean, always for me, unfortunately, always bad things happen in those tournaments. Last time in LAN in 2020, the last event we had before COVID, was with Alex, and it was the time where he wasn't sure about leaving or not. Yes. Even at the tournament, the year before, it was the major, but we were a young team. I was starting.
Very young. Yeah.
2018, we were at the tournament with G2, but close to split up. 2017, I didn't do it. Also, only really shitty moments, to be honest. And
sure.
And I just hope, I mean, for me, that I think it that way as well a little bit. For example, Cologne, except that year. It's always been a good tournament for me. I went to 2 final online, 1 final online last year, and semi-final, quarter-final. So I always say, yeah, guys, it's good. We're gonna play good at this tournament because it's my tournament. So there is no problem with that. And obviously, I think it's mental for them. As you said, Cologne is one of the best tournaments you can play, etc. So obviously, they lost to good teams most of the time when they went. Deep runs.
Sure.
In semi against Navi in 2018, against us 2019, even though we didn't win the final, as Liquid was performing pretty damn well at that moment. But yeah, I mean, it should be in their minds when they starting playing that tournament. I'm pretty sure.
To be fair, I never got out of groups at Katowice. They didn't even qualify any of the other years after that. It's fucking whack, wasn't it? You know, meanwhile, like, for example, a lot of people might not think Star Ladder is the best tournament, but I've told this anecdote before. I went to a Star Ladder when I'd only done like 1 or 2, but when it was back in like 2017, I think it was like maybe the second event they'd ever hired me for. And one of the top Star Ladder management people, I don't know why they would think to say this to me, like of all the people who you don't want to like trigger and piss off in agreement, but they said this. The guy just told me to my face, he goes, a lot of people here actually don't like you, and actually we only really hire you because you're a big name. And I just said, sounds like we have a perfect relationship. Just pay the money and shut the fuck up telling me stuff like that then. What are you talking about? Like, why are you saying that to me? The fuck? But like I say, it was a perfect relationship because indeed, Mauisnake, they did just keep paying the money and they did indeed shut the fuck up. So as a result, I've worked almost all the Star Ladders since. All worked out, right? See? Who knew?
Very professional.
Exactly.
Yeah. Just
listen, I can understand that level of professionalism, but exactly. Let's agree just not to talk, just do our jobs, you know. Be sort of like when Shox and MBK played together. Too soon? No, it's about 3 years. It's 3 years ago. It's about 3 years ago at this point. I think we can say that.
It's true anyway. So I have nothing to say against that. So
No. Right. Okay, Mauisnake. As I alluded
One last
to.
thing. One last thing.
Sorry.
for
Go on.
EpEX. Yeah. Are you superstitious about it? Like, do some tournaments just like, is it luck, superstition? Like, what force is compelling players and teams to not like perform well at specific tournaments?
I'm trying not to be honest, because it's a bad shit. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like that sometimes. Not too often though, but for Katowice, I'm like that. No, I think that way. When you have so many bad memories in that tournament, you're just like, why I'm here? Why I'm playing this tournament right now? It's always it's always around my birthday, and I never have time to spend it with my family, and I'm there just getting fucked. So it's really bad.
There we go. Right, so as I alluded to, Mauisnake, yours is sort of a bit similar to his, but actually it's got like a different distinction. So what was your good point?
Yeah, so my good is that what you guys did at Pro League though wasn't, I mean, you made it out of groups, which is great, but the way you guys beat a lot of teams was really convincing. I think the least convincing win was probably the Spirit win on Nuke. That one just that was way too close for comfort for me. But basically, when you guys played, say, Astralis, like none of the games were really even that close, and you guys, it just felt like you guys were pretty smooth sailing. Like even in the Astralis game, you guys got reset on the second round on Inferno, just to start that game on the CT side, which always sucks. But then you guys just reset them back, and you just kind of cruise to a really dominant half. And like the way you guys just sent all those lower ranked teams packing was, you know, like the most convincing thing I think about your play. It wasn't like you guys scraped by because Zywoo won like 4 clutches. It was pretty systematic dominance.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy about that run, to be honest. It was a really good groups, even though we started pretty bad against ErikHillestad, for example. The game we lost. We just started bad on our map pick, which is not really easy sometimes. And we ended the game pretty bad as well, as we had like the 13-9 lead. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's one, to be completely honest with you guys, that's one of the best tournament I led with the team, I think. I was feeling really good, both individually and in my coL's. So that was, we had almost all good T sides. Even against, when you talk about Spirits, we lost the side 7-8.
Yeah,
and,
you guys did better on T.
And we did a comeback. Same against ErikHillestad. We were 6-9 down, and we won 16-13 or 16-12. So we always had good T sides. I think on few maps, not all the maps yet, but I found a solution how to use the players I have, because having the difference between RPK and Kyojin is something not easy to use when you have, even though RPK had a lot of experience, obviously, but you had to use him in a certain way, and Kyojin it's a different way. And when you have such a young player that you don't know at all, it's a lot of reflection, it's a lot of talks. You need to have, mainly when they don't have experience and not talking that much. They don't know what they are. They don't know what they want. So it's always pretty hard to find a way. The same as we did with Mizuta. Now Mizuta is probably the second best player in the team, and he's showing up a lot because we have a lot of confidence in him, and we know how to use him in a certain way yet, because he's really young and he doesn't know himself what to do. So it's a lot of time and not really easy to do that, but it feels good to finally find out how to do it, and just performing better.
Could you actually explain what some of the differences are in using Kyojin and RPK specifically? Because they both play anchor positions for the most part. So are you referring more to the T side in how they?
Yeah. Obviously, I mean CT side. For me, it's more like individual. Even though we have obviously tactics as City, but it's more like being super good on your position and working on your position by yourself. I can't tell you to do things, because no, I mean a little bit, but you need to do your own choices and find the right way to play it. It's never easy, but that's the way we want. And in City, it's not easy for him. But I'm mainly talking about T sides. With APK, I mean. He wasn't an entry fragger, so I had to go first or Misuta, one of us. So we used APK more as a refragger with Iwu, or sometime more on the T side, not lurking, but like the passive guy on B on Mirage, for example, and then coming back with us to the fights, etc. So we just did. It's not easy with a player like Kyojin to use him in map control, because he doesn't have the reflexes to do like the good things, because it's not only about robotic things. It's just about how the opponent reacts, what you showed the last game on your map control, to not getting like anti-swatted, etc. And that's not something he knows. So it's never easy on some map control. So it's more on like APK did, because we tried to put him in this fight situation, and it didn't work out at all. He was like pretty lost. So it's never easy. So yeah, the way we use Kyojin is more like putting him on the side, except on few maps, but putting him on the side and then coming back and go first or second to just kill as many people as possible, and to not overthink, because he's not ready to think CS, I would say. He just need to be a good soldier, and that's how we use him. It's never easy, because you want to use your player in the best way, but you don't know. At the beginning, you don't know how to use him, because you don't know the player. It's not like we're recruiting like Rops or whatever good player. You know how to use him. You know what he did good in the other teams. For him, you don't know. You have no clue. Even him, he doesn't know. He just know how to do headshots, and that's it. So it put a lot of time, because it's not easy to find it out, because you almost need to find by yourself, not him fighting, just you finding how to use him in the best way. And I just always wanted to use my player in the best way, in that sense. Mainly, for example, Zaiwu wasn't playing that good at Kolong, for example, and we kind of find out why. I would say he had like no impact in T sides, because he wanted to go like more in the fights, like going first sometimes, maybe too many times. And when you have Zaiwu, it's like simple. You need those guys in late runs, because if they're 1-on-3 or even 2-on-4, they will just do like insane kill with their ops or their rifles, and they will just get you in the run and winning some crazy runs. And that's how you need to use him. I mean, Zaiwu sometimes just wants to go first, but it's not like he has to go first. He wants sometimes, and when he wants to do it, most of the time it's gonna wreck, because it's just like easy for him. And so we just try to put more Kyojin in the entry fragger role with Misuta, and having Shox, Zaiwu and me in the late runs. And to be honest, it worked a lot better. We had so many impacts in T sides. It's been a long time. I personally had this impact on T side, just being like in the late runs, more mid-run calls, more 2-on-2, and finding the way I want to play the 2-on-2, etc. And it just feels good to find the right balance. I don't say we're gonna be the best team in the world, but just finding a good balance within the players is something so important, and I really liked what we did in EPL.
Okay, I have a couple of things that I want to remark on. One is that I'm glad you brought up the Zaiwu less impact thing, because that's something I touched on when we had Valde on the podcast. Another thing is that when you guys first brought in Kyojin on Nuke, you guys had him and Masuta playing A together, I think in the first game against Double Pony, and you guys immediately switched it out. But now your guys' A defense is pretty weak with Shox and Kyojin there. It's giving you guys some troubles. Would you guys consider switching back? Because now Masuta is doing really well, and it seemed like there was a disconnect between him and Kyojin in that first game. But I mean, this is an outsider perspective, and so just take it how you do. But I mean, I think I would think that Masuta would now slot better, more as that like Shox position kind of guy at A. And Nuke CT side has given you guys some problems. You guys got 6 rounds against Heroic, and you guys got 7 against Spirit in the games you guys played at EPL. So.
And we did like 2 or 3 against Navi in Cologne.
yeah. So it's been rough.
You're right. That's something we're talking a lot. That's, I think, the weakest city side we have. It's on Nuke. Well, to be completely honest, I don't think it would work to have Misota and Kyojin, just because Misota is not ready to lead two players. They don't know how to. The main problem you have when we have really young players is they don't know how to react when they have a duo. They know what to do personally, but they don't know what to do with duo. No one will lead the Binom, the duo. We tried it out, and I don't think Misota is ready for that. He's more concerned by his personal, which is good, but in that situation, it's bad. So yeah, I don't think it would work better. We tried the switch because we thought that it will be easier, but for now, like Shox doesn't find his way to play the door, and it's not easy. Kyojin has no impact as well inside, so yeah, it's so hard sometimes to find the right balance on the map. I feel really good on New York City side on being like the rotation, etc. Yeah. I think it's a role that fills me, but if I have to go inside door, I will go door to just help the team to perform better. But that's a big discussion we need to have, and I'm not sure. Sometimes it's not about switching all the time. It's just about finding. How can I say? Just looking at the others, what they do, and how they react to everything, because. We have a discussion, for example, I will be completely honest with you, but we're loathing every at rush, okay? Every rush. And they say we can't do shit. And I just want to insult them. Because, I mean, I can't call this rush. We're just getting fucked. So I just say, okay, I'm going to call it in official match, and you will see how to react. Because against team, we can't do shit. And yeah, we're just too weak on that position for now, and it doesn't help our nuke. Our nuke is good because of the T sides, but besides that, it's so hard. And I mean, we had like some preparation on nuke, like having almost 3 guys all the time inside, and doing like not doing so much outside sometimes on the last 2 games we played, but more inside. And we did a bit better than like 2 or 3 rounds. We did 6, 7, 8, but it's still not really good. So if we find the right way to play city side on Nuke, I think it can be the strongest map of our team, because for maybe 6 months we're playing such a good T side on Nuke, always like 8 rounds, 9 rounds. So we just want to work more on that and finding the right way, and hopefully it's gonna be soon.
Right, on this general point, the fact that like Vitality made it out, and as you say, Mauisnake, they basically took care of like everyone they should on paper, and the only team that are not supposed to on paper beat is maybe Heroic, debatably. Obviously, the rankings aren't great for Heroic, but people know the quality of the team. Right, I think, like, obviously, I don't really care about the strength of the group. Like, on paper, yeah, you are supposed to get out of this group. I agree with apEX. Like, put it so, there's definitely a world where a team like apEX, Spirit rather, can upset a team like Vitality, of course. Like, that's basically what Spirit's made their whole reputation off, is like, everyone knows they always win Dust 2 if you play. I don't know how, by the way. They're the only team in the world that can actually like just permanently win Dust 2. But bizarrely, that is their like main map. So they always have a chance in a series, though, because it means if in a series there is a Mirage or something like that, we all know their players could frag out and win that map. That's why, in theory, they should actually be a top 10 team. It's just they're not a consistent one. So I thought that was actually pretty good. For me, the bigger deal is this. At the moment, the parity in CSGO online is good, but it's only good in the sense that loads of teams can beat each other. I actually think like the hierarchy of who is the best teams, dude, once you get past like the top 3 teams, it's all over the place. Like positions 4 to, I'm going to say like fucking 13, 14. Now it gets really, really ridiculous. So I actually want there to be more top teams that are established. Like I like it when, 1 and 2 are always going to make the final, and then like 3, 4, 5 are going to be like playoff teams. It's like there's like a logic to who's where. And you look at Vitality, obviously with Ziwu and some of the veterans they have, apEX and Shox here, they have the pieces to be that team who's like number 4, number 5, and back in the mix again. So I think if you look at this year, this ties into the other topic actually, which is people were really naive when they thought, right, well, these older players that have retired or been removed, they're just like, it's too old, they're washed up. This new player has like got skills, he's going to be an upgrade. It's like those players are only an upgrade in terms of the skills. The problem is, not only do people like RPK obviously bring tons of experience, but because they have the experience, it's way quicker to slot them into something that you want to do. Like they're going to understand what you're talking about. If you bring rookies like we're talking about here, you're dealing with more than one rookie at the same time, essentially. Like Masuta is still pretty young in his career. Zero himself, we're forgetting, is not that experienced. He only played like a year and a half on LAN or something. So if you get a team like that, it's going to take you months and months and months to build the whole system up. You're not going to just slot them in. Because what people are forgetting is this, right? Normally, when you bring in new players and you get that honeymoon effect, they're already tier 1 players. Like, the idea is he's already been top player. He just joins my team. And now, if everything's awesome, we hit the ground running. It's not like you go from tier 3 to tier 1 and instantly become. Like, that's just unreasonable. I don't think you can expect that. So, to me, actually, if you look at Cologne, because the result of Cologne, by the way, is mad underrated, because look who they lost to. They lost to Na'Vi, still won a map off them, by the way, who won the whole event. And the other team they lost to was FaZe, who, as everyone saw, was the main dark horse of the fucking tournament. They were the ones that actually were way better than anyone expected. So you look at the placing they had, like, there's a world where they get a different bracket here. They could be in the playoffs themselves. So I think if you look at the last few months since the player change, yeah, it looked bad initially, but like every month or so, I can see the dots going up on the graph, you know, like the curve is going upwards. And at the moment, I actually think if you look at the teams they beat and lost to here, like, by the way, there's a universe in which they totally could have won this heroic series. Then again, obviously there's some teams might have been able to beat them right at the end too. I would say right now, it's in about 2 months where Vitality could be at their best, which, by the way, perfect timing for the major. That's basically when the major will be. So that's something, actually, I want to ask you that just on, before we move on to my point here, apEX. It's like, obviously, in theory, you're always trying to win the next game and you try to win the game that's on the calendar, etc. But if you're a veteran, part of it also is like, you got to have one eye on sort of like, where are we in a few months? Like this sense, when the majors are, right? Because there's no good being the best team in the world, you know, in like December if the major's in April or something, is it? So you must be thinking on some level of like, you've still got a couple of months to get our shit together and really be at top level, right?
Yeah. What you say is completely right. There's like so many common things that I'm thinking all the time. Obviously, it would have been easier for me and for the whole team to have a tier 1 player joining Vitality, and we would have this honeymoon, and the work would have done in maybe 2 months, and we would have been ready for Cologne. But yeah, this Cologne event wasn't that bad. I mean, against Na'Vi, even though we won the map, the last 2 maps were like pretty bad, and the FaZe game was close. But yeah, we still lost, and I think we didn't play good, we didn't play bad, but we were at the level we were. So nothing bad, nothing good, just normal placing, I would say. And that's why I told my teammate, I said, when it was the first event even though it's not like a big stadium, etc., LAN is still different. It's still different than our bootcamp place. It's a place, it's different. So I talked to Misuta and Kyojin, I told them, you see now how it is. And for example, they like, young players are really bad with their communication, and they don't understand why and how they can improve it, and etc. And now they understood why it's that bad, because it's more tension, etc. And it's how it is, and they just like speak to not loud enough. So if someone is talking, we don't hear them, but they have important information, etc. So yeah, Cologne was still a good tournament for us, just to see where we were and where we want to be and how we can improve. And I think the coach, me, mainly found some solution to go further. And that's what we did in the beginning of this half season, just changing Kyojin role, like having him less in late runs, more in beginning of the runs, put him first, and having us, the old players, refragging and doing like the late runs, etc. It's never easy to find the right balance when you have young players. I mean, I wish sometime I could have played with older players, with more experienced players. It would have been way easier for myself as in game leader, because when you have such young players, you need to micromanaging a lot, which is really hard, and really it's a lot of tiredness when you do that all the time. So there is a lot of work you have to do. You need to talk all the time. You're not watching your crosshair at all. You play shit. So all the things together, you call bad, etc. So it's a lot of work to do. And I mean, yeah, it's finding the right groove and the right things. It's always satisfying. And I'm not satisfying yet because we've done nothing. It's just going out of groups. But it's good signs. Mainly when we talk a lot about that, but you have a player like Zyro, a potential best player in the world. He did twice. Him and Simple are above everyone. And when you have such a player, you need to think a right way and put him in the best condition. And the thing with him is so. As he's so like good guy, etc. He felt like, for example, he needed to go first because otherwise he would have been a baiter. And I just told him, yeah, it's your role, bro.
Yeah,
you need to be a baiter in the team. I don't think he's a baiter in his mind and etc. But you don't put it as a baiter, just at a late round player, at a refragger.
Yes.
That's your role. You're not just baiting, it's your role, and that's all we want you to use you. And yeah, he had so much impact in T-sides, having like crazy rounds, 2-on-4, etc. And I don't think he was like playing out of his mind at this tournament, but he still played like a Zyro. It's like simple. They just do like 130 rating, and but they played decent.
Yes. By the way, I definitely agree on the baiting point. It's like I always said when those idiots on HLTV.org forums were like, coL's era is a bait. I was like, first of all, he's the best baiter ever. Secondly, they win all the tournaments, you moron, it works. Like, it's actually called trade fragging, believe it or not, and they're probably the best at it in the game. I sometimes just call it the cleanup player. That's another way you can say it to make it not sound like beta, you know. But I'm putting it this way, the people who are the real betas, you wouldn't want to actually hear about that, would you, fans on HLTV? Oh, play back. Oh. Sorry. Fuck, my bad. Happy Reborn? No, just gonna leave that one out there, right? I don't know why no one else has drawn that analogy, but I'll do it eventually. The problem is they haven't had land back. He has to fail land first before I can really go fucking as evil as I was unhappy. Here's my point. I've got actually the easiest one ever. Whereas normally I'll try to go for a big point to make it. I thought I'd actually just go for like what does sound like a whack sort of like gift card level 1, which is I'm just happy CSGO is back. That's the good for me. I know it sounds like some wholesome shit, doesn't it? But the reason I say it is this. Because I'm not a player, it's true if you're at events you get a bit burned out, but it's not the same as being a player. Because I'm not a player, I've always said I'm very selfish. Like, I'm not one of the people who's like, the game's oversaturated. Like, if Team Liquid and Astralis really were the best, like, a few years ago, I did want to see him play every single week. Like, I'm just mad for it in that sense. But I will say, like, even though I understand that we need the breaks, it still feels like a long time, a whole month without any CS. I know there was the We Play thing, but that isn't the same. Like, we're having no CS at all, because, dude, even player breaks, like, they've gotten longer over the years. Like, people actually honour them now and don't do so. Sometimes people would run the odd tournament at the end of a player break, and, like, sneak in the last week or something. Like, if people remember MIBR won that bullshit tournament, like Asia, a few years back, where it was like that. It was like, should that really have been run? But whatever. So I have to say, it feels really weird, because I've always said the perfect format for me in Counter-Strike is I wish the circuit was like Formula 1, basically. I wish every month you had like a massive tournament and then you had a couple of weeks off where, you know, we could make content. You could have like breather if you're a player. But the idea is there'd be like a consistent schedule of like, you know, you always compete. Always. Whereas at the moment in CS, it's like you either just every day you're just assaulted by CS in your eyes. You can't possibly watch all the games. Or it's like a fucking ghost town with like the fucking tumbleweed blood. And there's like nothing going on, and then there's like Mauisnake with like some fucking guy like, hello, I'm 14. It's like, well, just watch this guy play against them. It's about all we can do. So as bad as it sounds, just sit, that's right, like a young boy, just CSGO being back has me happy. What do you think, apEX? CSGO's back.
Well, yeah, I understand your points, and I agree. I mean, having a big tournament every month would be something much better. Because when you're mainly online, when you follow all this CS, you don't know where you are. I remember APK playing tournament online last year, and he didn't know where we were at which point. Like in semi-final, were we in group stage? At what point? And he even didn't know because it was like so many tournaments in a row.
Yes.
And obviously in 2020 we went like really far in every tournament.
Yes.
So we had no breaks at all. It just was like a tournament over tournament over tournament. So yeah, I mean having like this month, for example, when you have such a terrifying schedule, this month of break is needed, and I think for everyone, obviously, mainly for the old guys like me on CS. When you have a long career behind you, it just put more and more tiredness in. And now I just feel good to play again. But yeah, I mean, we could have done much better in the format. I mean, the tournament could have done much better with the formats and all the stuff. Having one big tournament a month will be like something really good. And yeah, but we're not still there, and I don't think we'll ever be. So.
Fair enough. Mauisnake, what do you think about the return of CSGO?
It's great in that I get to do my job again. I get to watch stuff. Yeah, I feel like the one a month thing strikes better for me because this whole player break, even though I was working the We Play Academy League, and that was cool, like that was fine, but it kind of felt like for the rest of the scene, there wasn't really any hype or build up to anything, because I mean, Pro League's happening right now, but it's the groups and people, you can kind of give or take. The groups they're always something watchable, but they're never like going to draw everybody's attention. But a long break like this, I mean, it's probably better that it's leading to an ESL Pro League groups, because if it leads to something like a major, I mean, we saw how teams just kind of fell off after that is bad. That's always
it's really
bad.
bad.
Yeah, it's nice to get a reboot with just something that's a little bit more gradual like this. But I do think that if it were, like the break does feel kind of long, and in a way, it's not needless because of how much CS was being played by the top tier pros, but it just kind of leaves something like to be desired in terms of, is this really the best format? Like I already like your idea better, but maybe that's just a grass is always greener kind of situation where I just think that this player break was a little too long.
Sure. Okay, apEX. Now we're going to go on to the bad. What was your bad topic? What did you pick out here?
Well, obviously, something that we don't all dislike is EPL being held online.
Yes.
Oh.
Unfortunately, yeah. I mean, we had, even though...
It was originally planned it would all be offline, right? This was going to be like... Wasn't it going to be like where you guys would go to Malta or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, they want to do even their events in Malta for a year now.
Yes.
And they never had it yet, so
yeah, unfortunately.
it's pretty bad. But yeah, I mean, having EPL online after being in a LAN, I would say, Cologne was a bit hard. For us personally, like staying in the hotel for 2 weeks straight, like having an hour to go outside per day, and it's like really close to the hotel. It's not like refreshing for your brain, mainly at the end of the season, once again. But yeah, I mean, it was satisfying to travel again to see the other team, even it was a little bit and pretty far, but just having this environment, etc., was something nice, and just coming back. To online is bad for almost everything, but that's how life is. That's fucking COVID, and I hope it's gonna be different in the next few weeks, months, because I just want to get it back and just play in front of arenas and stadiums and people, and that's all I want. So
sure,
hopefully.
It still leaves a sour taste, the fact that this is all online. And, maybe that's why you made it out of groups, though. No, I mean, the thing is, the last one was online also, though. But it would have been nice if everything worked out with the Malta stuff. I mean, even studio stuff is better than just purely online.
Yes.
Like the difference between this and Cologne is pretty obvious, as a spectator. So. It's not definitely still not ideal situation.
Yeah, the tough thing for me is it's funny that actually I'm so glad Cologne happened, even though it couldn't have the crowd, because it's actually why I've changed my mind totally on this upcoming major, because the big drama of the major is whether they can have a real live crowd, basically. Like, they know the players can go and you could run the tournament, but essentially it might just be like an IM Cologne at the moment if you just held it in Stockholm. No one knows yet if it's going to be like, will there be a real crowd or will it just be a studio event with all the best teams? And I have to say, even though I agree, Mauisnake, like, clearly studio event without a crowd is still way better than online. It is also still like a big enough difference from like the crowd aspect that, like, for example, I think if the major takes place, it has to have a crowd at this point. Just from seeing Cologne, like, Cologne was cool, but it still wasn't like ESL Cologne from the past. It wasn't like when you're on, like, think about the year he's talking about, 2019, when you're on like a giant stage, you're playing Astralis to go to the final, the winner actually wins the Grand Slam. Like, that's like some epic shit. That's like one of those days if you're in the final of the semis where like you remember that your whole career. No one's really like, IM Cologne was just cool for the people who got to the end of it, basically, and the fact that we hadn't had a LAN for so long. So to me, like, certainly it sucks to like get a taste of LAN and then go back online, especially because, I mean, we kind of alluded to it. I don't think EPL is the greatest format. I think it's actually one of the weaker formats overall. Like, I hate any group stage where on the last game or the second to last game, people start breaking out like fucking charts, like they're going to slide between dimensions. Like, and if A wins, but then B loses, and like, as soon as you start doing that already, I'm out. Like, every good format in the world's easy. It's like, right, you've got 2 lives, he's died once, and then you got another one. All right, it's single elim, right? Just the winner wins it. Like, a good format should be very easy to explain, so I don't know, I'm not a big fan of it overall. So I'm glad there are online tournaments, but Like, this isn't the best one, and I guess in some ways it's all right. It just comes after the player break, whatever. It just, for me, it feels like we're all still like gradually warming up. It doesn't feel like we've properly started CSGO again yet. Obviously, different for the teams who are struggling to get out of this group, but I still feel like CS starts in 3 weeks or something mad in my mind. Right, Mauisnake, what was your bad?
My bad is it's kind of related to ESIC, and it's kind of two parts. Where one is that ESIC recently added this registrar to show their open cases and ones that they've closed out on.
Right, okay.
Note just published an article about it. So I took a look at it, and it has a few things that it say finalized and things that are active still. And then it kind of reminded me about how, and this is more regional, that the NA match fix, the more recent NA match fixing scandal, the one that had the audio logs of Rechi saying that we're going to use these kind of ghosting tactics to try to win some matches to fix some games. I just look back at that and I remember that Rechi is actually Rechi and 4-Pack are unbanned, even though those logs did get out. And it just kind of, so my real bad here, to bring it together, is that they're unbanned, and that's in a way, like, there just wasn't enough evidence to keep them banned. And I'm just realizing that for a lot of the match fixing scandals in North America, and there's going to be a report apparently coming out from ESIC tomorrow on their NA Premier standpoint on it. It's you simply can't, like, it simply just doesn't seem like they're ever going to have the evidence to catch anybody for this.
Yes.
I think that's just my general bad, that I think that that there is still a decent amount of match fixing, and especially given the fact that everybody just saw what happened to Rechi and 4-Pack and the rest of that team. Like, there's what's going to stop anybody now? Because it was just a little slap on the wrist. They were banned for 3 months.
Basically,
and now they can play again.
Here's the main problem with that whole topic. Like, first of all, on the ESIC side, as you see, because the kind of, like, basically, if you ban someone outright, you have to have them nailed to the fucking wall. You have to absolutely have real physical evidence. Like, for example, a fan already might hear what you just said, Mauisnake, and think that's what doesn't make sense. So they admitted it. It's like them admitting it themselves. Guess what? They can lie. Like that. Like, that's not enough evidence. I know it sounds like it. Like, and unfortunately, everyone who's watched like police TV shows, that is how bad TV writers basically end the episode. You just catch the guy and he admits it in the in the interrogation room. If he just says no comment, I'd like to talk to my lawyer, the episode would be over, wouldn't it? Like, you wouldn't be able to actually get him to admit that he did all the shit. And the worst one ever, I'll say, by the way, is how you know a really bad TV writer is where they don't have any evidence, but they just say something mad to him, like, and then that's why you killed him then and left your fingerprints. And he goes, no, I didn't, because I was wearing gloves. Oh, no. Oh, shit. And it's like, dude, no one would ever admit that. Like, that is whoever wrote that, like, you are not actually very good at writing the detective character here, because you apparently don't know how to solve crimes. But I agree, though. The problem with ESIC in that sense is when people hear about these stories, Mauisnake, they think naively, oh, well, they're going to catch everyone. Like, they're going to get everyone who's done the crime and they're going to be banned. What they don't realize is this. The most famous match fixing ban ever in Counter-Strike was obviously the one that Richard Lewis helped investigate with iBuyPower, right? I always give this detail because people forget it. They didn't get banned for months until after that fix. That fix, I believe, was in like August of 2014, and they got banned in like, I'm going to say, at the end of January 2015, right? The reason it took months and months and months and months and months is because even though the eye test said this is probably a throw, even though the actual fucking guys had done like actual, like, they had logs of them saying stuff, it really, like, and they had all the data, by the way, they had all the data showing the actual skins being transferred between the accounts. So you would think, right, that's it. Believe it or not, it wasn't until Richard got that phone with the, like, log of, like, a girlfriend of the guy related to it, D-Born, where he basically admitted the whole thing combined with it. That was what made Valve actually take the final step, was like, he had everything. He had all the possible evidence you could have. Well, the problem in most of these cases, like we're alluding to, is you're not going to have it. And here's the really depressing detail. The reason why you're not going to have it is that was very amateurish, because no one knew you could get caught back then. No one knew anyone was even investigating. So even people who were trying to do it were just like, as long as someone can't like really prove it in the like immediately, I'm going to get away with it. Well, here's the problem I've always thought, Mauisnake. What happens in a world where people just get smarter about how they match fix, Like, why not use a Smurf account when you send the information? Why not use crypto to send each other the money so it's not trackable? Like, there's unfortunately in the modern day, I feel like, listen, there's a lot of young dumb people who are going to get caught cheating and match fixing, but I feel like there's a certain criminal element where if they just took some very basic protections, it's not that you can't get caught, it just becomes way less likely you will, unfortunately. So I basically, I guess my point here is, just because ESIC says they're investigating someone, unfortunately, doesn't mean those people will actually get punished. Sometimes they will if they get the right info, and they get obviously if they manage to get enough people come forward to help with the case. Sometimes they're not, though, unfortunately. And there's even going to be people where, just like in real life, there's cases in real life where someone did the crime, but for example, like in America, I know this is a famous one. If you actually like illegally search them, sometimes you have to like not allow the evidence of what you found. So even if you found like a gun and drugs, you have to. If it turns out it was illegal, you didn't have a warrant. Sometimes they actually essentially get to go free, even though they did some criminal shit. Unfortunately, that will happen in esports as well, I'm afraid. So fans thinking this is like some movie which is going to catch all the bad guys, you're not. But the good news is at least someone's going to catch some of the bad guys. That's all I can really say on that topic. Do you have any thoughts on this, apEX? I always wonder for players, because like for players, you hear about all these cases, you hear about ESIC supposed to investigate and stuff, but I'm sure it's hard to know, like do they even have anything here? Are they just looking for stuff? Like, are people actually coming forwards? What's the player's perspective on ESIC, do you think?
Well, I will be completely honest with you. I don't follow those things. I just read on HLTV, but I don't follow it up because...
Fair enough.
I don't know. I don't. I don't feel it's really interesting to see that. It's I would say the bad shit from our game and etc. Obviously, people need to get punished, etc. But just the thing, I don't really care. I don't really take care of that most likely. And
fair enough.
I just stay far from that, and I just read the comment the investigation a little bit, but that's it. So you're even talking about things that I don't even know. So.
Yeah, don't worry about it. By the way, you definitely don't need to know about MDL match fixing from years ago. That's not really on your plate. You can focus on better things about apEX. Plus, we all know, luckily, the French scene got all that shit out of their fucking system a few years ago, didn't they? We could have had ESIC about 2014. That's all we needed, you boys. Like, if we can get in a time machine and go back, we can maybe get rid of some of these focus. All I'm saying is, I'd like to take some people back to 2014 and look at a certain entry fragger's fucking account when he's transferred all those skins. That's all I'll be saying about that. Shout out Keo. Right. Here's the thing. We'll move on. I don't give a fuck about Mauisnake. The truth is, right, here's the thing. My point of bad is it's going to be in line with this, actually. Dude, I'm going to phrase it very, very carefully here. What is bad to me is that Hunden's credibility is destroyed completely now. Like, even if, by the way, it turned out he wasn't like I know it was like tenuous on this recent case where people don't know, he like shared access to this file that had the anti-strats in, but people claim like, but nobody opened them. I don't think people understand, like, his intent was essentially to, by the way, to commit a crime, essentially. Like, you could probably actually, if this was a bigger scaled sport with millions and millions on the line for every match, you could probably actually get taken to court for this. Like, that would be considered something like, because within your contract, by the way, it will 100% have clauses that say things like, you cannot like tamper with the results. That you definitely, there's always one in there, if you've ever seen a modern esports contract that says, for example, you can't leave the company and ask someone to come and join with you if you go somewhere else. There's all sorts of rules out there. So this actually could be, you could be considered defrauding your team by giving away this shit. You could potentially be actually, this even could be considered a form of match fixing if it ended up being meaningful to the result. So to me, the saddest thing about this, and the reason why I purposely picked this topic, is because it isn't as simple as when someone else cheats, right? And you're like, right, they're bad, they cheated, get them the fuck out. Dude, Hunden is someone, I'm not exaggerating, who we need in CSGO. Like, we really need this person. Yeah, because right now, I've been complaining for the last 2 years, especially with all the Flashpoint stuff, about how bad all the general managers are in Counter-Strike. Like, basically, a lot of the players still make the roster moves, and the general manager just figure out the deal. So they aren't really like in sports where, they're supposed to like think like, what player do I want in a few years? Or who's the next guy on the right? Like, a lot of them aren't good enough at that. And the worst thing about this is, Hunden already, that was his skill when he was an in-game leader. He was fucking amazing at finding the next talent and knowing like, right, this is like a good player in this one team, but if I put him in this team and put him in, a specific role, he gets way better. So I actually think, even though no one knows yet whether he was going to go to Astralis, to me, we need this guy in tier 1, like, especially by the way, the Danish scene right now, like, a bunch of their teams are a mess. Like, they need someone who can basically like rebuild the scene, find the next top players. So to me, you can't lose people like that. They're like irreplaceable. Like, there's no like 15, 20-year vet coming in like Hunden who can just replace him and do this. Like, unfortunately, we're just going to lose someone like that from the scene. And if he remains, because obviously we need him, well, then we're letting someone who's repeatedly attempted to cheat or do dodgy stuff stay in the scene. So it's just a bad look all round for me. Like, Mauisnake, what do you think on this topic?
I agree that losing someone like Hunden is just so awful for the space because I think North America, for example, would die for somebody to fill
be the shit, wouldn't
shoes. Yeah, it would be amazing.
I've told that story in the past that I actually basically had convinced Jack from Cloud9 to sign him for that reason, dude. Because I even told him, the thing about this guy is he'll just find you all the next talent. Like, you only have to use him for 6 months or something. You can switch him out after that.
Yeah, and he did such a good job at just building up so many players and kind of building out their skill set and making sure that they were ready for pretty much tier 1 play almost from the get-go. I mean, from Trick to Mad Lions, like Acor, Bubsky, even Shush, like, I mean, there were so many players there that have just gone on to succeed at the highest levels. And
most of them.
Yeah. I mean, he like his touch is golden in that he could do so much, but yeah, the things that he did bad were just, you can't even really look the other way anymore.
I know.
Yeah. It's like, okay, the coaching bug when that happened, it was terrible, and I really reprimand everybody that did it. But it was kind of like geez, like so many people did this. Like, was it just like it's kind of in a way like just it never became never became okay. But it was like geez, this is just like everybody did it because it was available kind of thing. But then it's just the strat book stuff too, and sharing the anti-strats, I guess, because I guess there's a categorical difference in that. That part is just, where are you gonna stop, and like how are you getting off on this? Why do you keep going? Like, you just need to, there's a point where you need to cut yourself off,
What do you think on any of this apEX, the Hunden topic?
Well, I think when you do 2 mistakes in a row, I don't think you understand what you're doing, kinda. The results of your acts, and that's what Hunden has right now. I think he just didn't think about the results of his crimes, and that's pretty unfortunate, because I always say it in a lot of things, and when I'm talking to people, I wish we could have like a player like him in France, to help new upcoming players to be better, because for years we had almost a lot of in-game leaders, even on Source, that helped the scene to grow up so fast.
Yeah.
We had like 4 insane in-game leaders in France. We had Existence, we had KOL, we had ESP, and Malek, the G2 coach. We had 4 of them, and that helped us so much. And I think that's why Danish have been like that good for the last couple of years. It thanks to those guys. A guy like Barry as well. He's been there forever. He's been like putting players up and up. Like, I would say it's like Barry players going to Hunden, and then Hunden going to Astralis and North, and etc. Yeah. And I mean, I wish we could have a player like him in France, and helping to our players to grow, etc. Because I feel like the friendship top never been that bad for a bit of years. And I remember back in the days, we had like so many in-game leaders, so many people helping the young players to grow up and becoming like much better. And that's why that's like what I thought before, like a player like Existence could have done, but that's not what he wanted to do, and that's understandable. But that's not something he wanted to do and he liked to do. So, but yeah, I wish we could have Hunden, and that's pretty unfortunate to see him in those scenarios, because I'm pretty sure, as I said, he's a big part of the rising Danish scene for such a long time. Like, I'm pretty sure he played with almost all players from all the teams in Denmark. Yep. I remember playing against him in 2011 on Source in LAN in the Copenhagen games. We had like a 3rd place game. He was with Kajon B and some other players, and he was already there. And I remember on Source he was already doing those stuff. He was like known like kinda as a little Existence, even though he was a bit less good.
Of course.
Individually, and he didn't have such players we had in France. But he was already doing damage with like not known players. He knows how to use them, how to work with them. And I mean, a guy like him would have a work in esports for like
for life.
For life, because he's such an important piece. I mean, he could have like sell anything to any big organization, like having him around and etc. And I don't know what's going on in his head, I would say, but that's pretty unfortunate to have such a genius guy doing that shit. That's that kind of shit.
Yes. I'll even say, by the way, I think your point's great. Like, the obvious one in France would have been, if people remember when Existence went to LDLC when he'd been kicked out of like the top teams, like the problem then was you just didn't have this current generation come through. Imagine if he'd been an IGL at that level, and then now instead of people like Masuta, Kyojin having to jump right into Vitality from nothing, they've already been under someone where for they play 6 months or they play a role. That would just help you guys, wouldn't it? Just be like you just get warmed up basically.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying most of the time. Most likely for players like Misuta and Kyojin. Before joining Vitality, they were Faceit players.
Of course.
So it's the same when Astralis started like picking up players like or the young NiP or the young Navis.
Yes.
They're at the moment of their career. But they're playing in a tier 1 team with players that have won like almost everything. They had the best player in the world. They had like one of the best clutcher of all time. They had me. I mean, they are like so strong players, but they no one. Like they don't know nothing. They don't know CS at all, etc. And obviously it would have helped the team so much to have good in-game leaders or good formers in the French top. But yeah, unfortunately we have no one, and that's made me something. If there is still time in the future, I will do, because we have so many talented players that never go far because they just don't have nothing like. I mean, it depends of your personality. Some players are learning by themselves, and some other need other guys. And I think most of them need someone to be on their back, and but they have no one, so they're not like getting better, etc. When I'm watching like except double pony that are getting better, that are pretty good, even though it's sometimes shaky, etc. But they're getting like they have been better than the others. Except them, because they have a bit of body. Who played like in tier 1, Lucky as well, etc.
Yes.
But the rest, like it's when I'm watching the other game from them, I'm like, it's the same than 3 years ago or 4 years ago. Like they never got better, and that's pretty frustrating for me to watch like our sub top like that, because I'm like, when the old. That's what I'm scared with French scene. It's when the old player will retire. What's gonna happen in the French scene? And I think we will not have French scene anymore if it keeps like that.
I mean, if you look at the way the Swedish scene's going, mate, that's the ghost that everyone's the ghost of the future, isn't it? Like that's the fear, is that you just have to go international, right? Okay, apEX, exactly. Let's do it. Let's do the ugly then. What was your ugly point? Which did you pick?
Okay, so we're not gonna talk about the specific one, but I was just. I just want to talk about the bad luck of complexity the last 2 years. Now for obviously config injury, but I think like 1 year ago. No, it's exactly 1 year ago. Obo left complexity because he wanted to go back home, which is pretty bad. At the end of the season, Poison has surgery. Now complexity has injury. Config has injury, so it's just pretty bad for them. I just feel really bad because. They had like a strong beginning of 2020. They were playing good CS, etc. They had a problem, then another one coming, then another one coming, and I just feel like it's never gonna end. And I just like the ugly thing about it.
What do you think, Mauisnake? Where you are on the complexity bad luck in this case? Like he's basically taken the config like risk break as kind of the explanation point at the end of it. It's kind of it is a trend of like they've had a lot of problems over the last year or so.
Yeah, I think that. Well, it is unlucky. Like there's so little that, like even the way config posed his what happened, where he said that he was in an airport, he was looking at his phone, he slipped and he broke his hand basically on a guardrail or something.
Yes, something like that.
I mean, that could literally happen to anybody. Like that is the most innocent way of. It's not like he's even out or anything like that at a party or anything like that. He actually is just doing something that any player should do. So yeah, super unfortunate. And to touch on, I mean, I guess a point I have about complexity is that I wish they kind of just tried somebody else instead of NATO Sapphics. Like I don't think NATO Sapphics is terrible or anything. Like he's all right. He was actually doing pretty well for Lingby Vikings, I remember when I watched their games. But then I just kind of wish they just took a gamble a little bit more on some just insane FPL talent, personally. I kind of wish you just made the most out of the situation. Like you're not maybe Blame F just thinks that we can catch NATO up to our system faster than anything. But it's just that if NATO has to play the roles of config, he just will never suit the what config had to do in terms of space creation and pure fragging power. So I kind of wish they just went for some, like, I don't know, did anybody, like, just ask everybody in the group, did anybody see anyone nuts in FPL who calms better than you'd expect?
Yes,
just try him out. Like, I think we just know, like, NATO is too much of a known quantity for me to like actually be interested in complexity right now. But
basically, the thing that sucks, unfortunately, is like, basically, I agree. The people they have standing in are obviously only they had Yugi before this. They're obviously only standings. They're not really, like, this guy could literally play his best possible game right now. They're not going to get replaced. They're not going to literally replace config. There's zero chance. But the problem with that is, like, in a weird way, I agree. I'd at least like a world where it wasn't impossible. Like, you know, maybe we could actually win some games while we're having a stand-in. Whereas these lineups, like, the team, it's just a worse version of complexity, the same as when they had fucking Yugi. Like, they're not going to win the games, I think. So I get why you do it in a way as a team, because it's like, whatever, we just kind of like, we all pretend we can win and do our job, and then we hope he comes back soon. But it does mean all these periods, like the downtime in complexity always feels like a waste of time. Same with the Obo one. It's like you waited forever for them to replace him, then you waited forever for them to bed in JKS. Like, it's like, unfortunately, if you're a coL fan, the thing is, they never get actually really bad, if you notice. They never go to the absolute bottom. They're always, like, decent, at least. And then they always have the nice... When all the lineups there, they'll always have a tournament or two where they start, like, they're making playoffs, they're having a big upset run. But there is something about that team that feels unsatisfying, I will say. After all these years. Remember, it's now been, like, a year and a half.
I almost would... I would almost actually, even to be really selfish about complexity, like the point you made about them, just it feels like a waste this time. Dude, just pick up a tier 2 IGL and just tell him to teach you all of the stuff he does, and just do something that's gonna help you guys moving forward. Either like learning about a new player or just stealing some tier 2 guys strats or something. Like, I just like do something out of the box a little bit, because the Yugi substitution also, I just remember now getting flashbacks of how underwhelming that was too, and it all does just feel like complexity goes through these periods of just malaise across all the players, where they're just like, why am I, like, we're just going through the motions. Like, do something just drastically different, like FPL star, or just try out a new IGL. Even if you're gonna go back to blame IGLing, just give me somebody that's gonna like shake up the playbook a little bit.
Oh, and one other thing I do need to mention is, and by the way, apEX will know what I'm talking about here. The problem here is, I agree, right? If that really is how it happened to config, I feel really bad, because it sounds like a pure fluke. It could happen. But one thing, when you were saying that, like, he wasn't even out or anything. The problem is, if you know CSGO pros, they also, if they were out and had broke their wrist, like fighting someone, they would make up a story like that, like some really like, oh no, and then like I was chasing my cat and I slipped like on a skateboard, and like, because all I'm going to tell you this is, like, put it this way: if years and years ago, good old ochs, back when he used to have the old choxy Red Bull and then go out all night and then come back at 9 a.m. for the game, if he'd have injured himself, he'd have had some like excuse like this. I'm telling you, like, it would be some really obscure, you know, oh, and then some guy like asked me to hold something for, you know, it wouldn't be just like, oh, I was out and I was drunk. So he'd have some story like this, I guarantee you. Like, a pro players can't be, all I'll tell you is, years and years ago, this happened in 1.6 actually. We were at an event in Asia, and I won't say which player because I don't want to like BM him in case my memory was wrong, but one of the Polish players in Neo's team came with like a broken hand, literally. He had like it already cast, and he said the same thing. He was like, oh yeah, I was playing football and like I injured it, and then one of his teammates just told me like, nah, I just punched a window when he was like angry in a fight or something, you know, something like utterly ridiculous. But obviously no one's gonna just say, yeah, I was just really angry and punched a window and broke my hand, because you sound like an idiot, don't you? So even though, listen, config, we're not casting aspersions, we don't know what happened to you, I'm just saying there's a lot of people would lie in that scenario to make it not sound as bad. There are a lot of people who would do that. Yeah. Yes, for sure. Right, what is yours, Mauisnake? What do you pick for the ugly?
Yeah, my ugly is it's about Bad News Bears is showing at ESL from a couple different points where, yeah, it's bad that they didn't play very well, but I think what strikes me as ugly about the situation is kind of the, like, dare I say, Reddit comments, the community's reaction.
What was the take like?
I
thought people were kind of hyping them, weren't they?
Oh, people were so hyped, but that I think that fuels the vitriol that comes out.
Oh, they turn on you when you lose, right? The backlash, I see, yes, okay.
Yeah, exactly. And Note wrote a tweet on it recently about it's just like there's no reason, just because a small group of people want to pick up a team from North America or something like that, doesn't mean that it's everybody's duty on the internet to tear them down if they don't succeed. And you know, I am speaking to probably a vocal minority or something.
Oh,
like
course, course, yeah.
This shouldn't be the general thing. But then again, the comments that are negative to them are pretty upvoted. So it's also like, can people like, why are people like, reinforcing this kind of behavior? So that all just rubbed me completely the wrong way. And I man, like, when I think about Bad News' Bears play,
let me ask you something. When you say like the response, is it more like put it this way? Was it essentially like Cloud9, where they just sort of like reveling in the fact that the team was losing and couldn't win a game? Is that like the vibe you were talking about?
Like if you get the SpongeBob meme of him like looking stupid, it would be like, but sign us or need org or something like that. It's like, why?
Right.
Like, yeah.
Oh, so they don't deserve to be signed because they came last or whatever, right?
Exactly. Yeah. People are saying they don't even deserve an org. I think that's kind of the general sentiment to push that into their faces. Like, I think 3 years ago, the fourth best team, I guess, in North America would absolutely have an org. So this isn't like, it's not like you're throwing any like it just completely misses the point of why they want an org. It's not about even their results or anything like that. It's just that the way the space is now, it's just the entire deck is stacked against a team like this. So if they got any kind of financial assistance at all, so that they didn't have to work a part-time job, so that they could maybe boot camp in Europe for a couple weeks before Pro League starting, like all of this would just like you would see that those kind of benefits work so greatly in their favor that's why it's just ugly to me that people think that somehow their performance here means they don't deserve an org. If anything, they need an org more so that they could play better next time. Like, an org helps you play better. It doesn't. It's not like it's a one-to-one just like transaction immediately when the deal happens.
You have any thoughts on this, apEX?
Yes.
Luckily, you know who Bad News Bears is because they were in your group. It's not like one of those episodes where, some sick European player has to pretend he knows who Mauisnake's MDL friends are. Like, you know this team is, at least,
Yes. I mean, I don't understand how people react to them. Like, obviously, NA region has been pretty bad lately because of Valorant. Everyone knows, and there is no problem with that. They just won the MDL, so they just have to be in Pro League. That's the rules, the ESL rules. That's not like their fault, kinda. They're not playing good. That's a fact. I'm not gonna say they're playing good. It's not true. Right. But yeah, as you said, they don't have organization, so they're not getting paid for what they do. They're playing like kinda professional at the same time and not at the same time. So it's like pretty bad. Obviously, they deserve an organization. It will help them to grow up, etc. And yeah, I mean, I don't understand yet the hate that came to them. Obviously, it's the same if you think like that way. Like, for example, you had the World Cup of football. Obviously, there are some region in the world, etc. That's kind of the Pro League. That's how it works. Like having like a team from around the world, and you have like obviously teams that are playing really bad and that losing like 7-0, 4-0, 5-0, and you say they don't deserve to be it. Yes, they've been the best in their region, so they deserve to be here. They deserve to be paid for what they do, etc. And I think it's pretty bad shit about. I think the hate they received, and it's bullshit. Obviously, they're not at the level yet. But it's not because you're at the level that you don't deserve anything, and that you need to be like a flame like that. And yeah, that's pretty unfortunate, but that's how our world works. So it's pretty unfortunate.
I'd even go the other way, Mauisnake, and agree with your point about the org. Like, they were playing against teams which every single team in their group, I'll say with the exception of Spirit, because I'm actually not sure what Spirit's setup's like. I don't know how pro their setup is, even though they all do seem to play from one location, so I'll say that. In theory, the group you're in as well, these are all real orgs. Like, Astralis, Vitality, by the way, they're two of the biggest orgs in the entire world. Heroic's not exactly a joke, especially since they got that like bought out and they have a load more resources. And then basically after that, there's only Spirit, like I mentioned before. Like, they're not even playing against like the nobodies. Like, they're not even in a group with the sinners of the world, etc. Because obviously they are like kind of the sinners of the group. Like, they're getting put in as the worst team. So I think in that scenario, like, they shouldn't on paper beat any of these teams. It shouldn't happen. So logically, you have to actually have support. You have to have like the time to be in a team, salaries, so you can justify qualified player. You have to have all these things so you can ever improve and close the gap to actually get to the top level. And also, you look at this team. The reason why I can't hate on this team is like, look, Mauisnake, if I go with the angle of like, I'll think of like lands in the past. If this was 3 years ago, and like, remember the old really bad complexity lineup with like Def and those guys, but they would like inexplicably, they'd win like an online qualifier, sometimes over like Team Liquid or something, and go to the LAN. Now listen, I would sort of hate on them at the LAN because of the garbage. I don't want to see them play. But here's what's different. This team is all like basically new players. Like it's not even like they're washed. Like if these were all like old players, it was like the worst play. Say this team was like fucking Daps and like PTR and like it's like who gives a fuck? Yeah, then I'd be like, yeah, why even invite them to the LAN? But if you look at who's in this team, like first of all, the Jonji guy, we only even found out about him last year. If you're an international fan, like he's actually probably going somewhere. He's half decent. The Sheikh Zula guy, if people don't know, as far as I know, basically has been like a fucking Hunden / MSL in like MDL level, hasn't he? And built a whole bunch of teams and replenished his players over and over again. So they've even got like some parts that probably one day could even do bigger things. Like, yeah, people forget, like everyone has to start somewhere. So to me, if Bad News Bears is always as bad, yeah, who gives a fuck, forget them. But this could actually be where next time they're slightly better, they have a better player, maybe they scout one extra player that goes in the mix. Also, yeah, you've also got to consider maybe one of these players next year isn't a better NA team. So I think that whole thing's ridiculous because I sort of agree with you in general. There is a certain type of fan in CS at the moment where I understand why it's fun to make fun of people who are like really cocky. Like, for example, everyone does when they talk about Cloud9 getting abused. They do forget that, like, Henry did make some mega cocky remarks. Like, he sort of enticed that because his whole plan obviously was, if we win enough games, the fact that the villains will play in our favour, it'll be even more PR. Like, these haven't done this. Like, Bad News Bears haven't been talking shit. It's not like they were, like, trying to donk on everyone. Like, they're just trying their best. Like, it's not actually that cool to just shit on people who actually just trying, It's funny if people are just bad, yeah, but, like, they're trying, They're just not the best teams in Europe, obviously. And there's the other detail. This is also not like other years. In the past, remember, even when you had the LAN for Pro League, it was divided up into North America. You used to go, and you had those 2 group stages where you got to play all these matches and get experience. Because you win MDL, you come all the way to Europe and play in this tournament with the best teams in the entire world. That jump up is ridiculous. Do people actually stop and comprehend how different it is to play against Team Spirit, Heroic and Vitality and then to play against MDL? Like, those may as well be different games. That's like if CS2 came out, we asked them to play that today. So I think that's a reach. Like, for people are hating on this team. Come on. Right, for mine's like not actually that big a one, so I'll see what you got the tag on this one. But I saw the news, Mauisnake, and this just bummed me out. Because even the way it was announced, this is what I hate. So it's not going to be the specific player, it's the way this team is using the 5th position. And it's going to be the news that LNZ will continue as the NiP's 5th player. So what I hate about this, like I say, is not just the move. Like, I don't like the move itself. I've actually watched him play. Quite frankly, I didn't think he ever really passed the eye test. And he also looks like a player where it's like, if you are good, mate, he'll be in 2 years. It's not now. Like, you're just an okay player at best. Secondly, when I look at him in the team, I also get this horrible vibe, like a lot of teams over the years, like he just got whatever was left over in the fucking team because explicitly they don't need him and they've been replaced with 5th player. So I get the feeling that he was just like, you got this shit role, this spot, this, like he never had any choice. So he's also not going to shine if he is an up and coming player because you weren't doing any of that shit to get you shine initially. Presumably you probably were the star of a team to get you noticed in this way. So my problem basically is NiP is actually really underwhelming me, dude. It was months and months ago. I think it was in the beginning of May when they signed Device. We're now almost in September and they still don't have a set 5. And part of the reason they don't is because, let's be real, these players they're bringing in at the 5th position just aren't going to last. Like, eventually they're going to have to, as we say in English, like, shit or get off the pot. Like, either commit to one of these players because you actually believe in their potential, in which case, by the way, they might have a chance to develop, or forget them, get rid of them now, because all you're doing is ruining them as players, in my opinion. When you take players like ZTR and LNZ and you make them play a bunch of Tier 1 tournaments, but they know they're not even a real player and they're not building towards anything, they're just having to literally audition every game they play to stay in the team, that is a terrible fucking state. Like, that's not how you grow a player. That's how you kill a player's confidence in his fucking career. So I hope they either just sign a player or pick one of these players. If it is LNZ, then just say something like this, right, after the major we'll make a decision, because that way you at least give him, like, in his mind, right, you got this space, you got a few tournaments to work with, it's not about failing or winning today. This approach they're taking, I think it's really cutthroat. Like, it just, I feel like they're going to sort of chew up these players and we'll never hear from them again after NiP either.
I mean, I would say something like, I don't understand the view they have in NiP. When you're picking up such a player like Device, I think you're trying to build a winning team. That's I think what they want. And then the other way, they're doing like they're just putting like an academy player and leaving him like, okay, you have 2 events to prove. And yeah, it's like something pretty weird, I feel. And I don't think they will perform in that way. That's even pretty sure. So as you said, it's a lot of pressure on this LNZ guy. Just having your organization say, yeah, you have 1 tournament and then we will see. It's not enough time to just to think your way and perform and being comfortable. I think they're doing like maybe what NiP have done before by replacing also the time one player.
The 5th spot always gets replaced. Yeah, like the old team. You mean? Yeah.
Yeah, having like the same core and replacing one player, and that guy had to do like the 5th Laren old role,
exactly.
which is even more than a support player. It was even worse. So yeah, I'm not sure what they way to see that, and that's really unfortunate because when you have one of the best player ever on Counter-Strike, I think you need to have a winning team, and even if you're spending money buying anyone, I don't know what I could do. I will do, but I'm just saying that they should give the best and putting the best lineup they could to trying to win as many things as possible when you're recruiting such a player.
By the way, just let me quickly ask you something, apEX, because obviously, like, you would be the perfect person to ask. All I think of is this. I'm trying to think of a similar scenario. If when Masuta first came into Vitality, you'd done the same thing. You were like, right, you're only temporarily... in fact, we even listed him on the website. He's just a stand-in, no one knows how long he's going to be here. Like, it took ages for Masuta to get as good as he is now. Like, it's taken him almost, 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, a year. Like, if he'd have had, like, 2 months and he'd have known, like, I'm fired if I do really badly and have a bad HLTV rating, I doubt he would play the same way. I doubt he'd develop the same way, right?
Obviously. We didn't even talk about time with him. We just said, obviously, you're young, you know nothing about the game. We're going to try to teach you as many things as possible and see how it goes. And we didn't even plan anything like saying... Yeah, it's not. It's too soon or too late or whatever. We just did. We did our job. We put him in the position he wanted. We're just trying to work with him, and at the end, it worked out. Even though in 2020 he wasn't like playing as good as now, but he was still a part of the team that won few tournaments online. That been to many finals. So he learned a lot with the team, and obviously you can't put that much pressure on a young player. That's my way, at least, and I think that's the way you need to think. And yeah, I mean, just let him time and see how it goes. And obviously, don't put him in the worst situation. Just try to use him in the best way, because he has obviously less understanding of the game than the other players. That's a sure thing. So you just need to use him in a certain way. Contrary to the other players that can play a lot of, not roles, but a lot of ways. And I think that's my way to see it. And they have their own, but okay.
Yeah, by the way, when he says in a certain way, apEX means like very specifically, like have him do exactly this, as opposed to obviously the other players could fit in a bunch of roles and could sort of move around. What do you think, Mauisnake, on this topic?
I think that it's telling that the best real event that Device has played was with ZTR and not Linus. And I still am kind of going to bat for ZTR, because I think that he was a better fit on the roster than Linus is. Because when I watch Linus, he's just really kind of cookie cutter, but mediocre for the tier 1 space right now. And at least ZTR played a style that worked for them at Flashpoint. Like, still the best result with Device was second place at Flashpoint.
Yeah, true.
So when you look at the other things they played, it's 8th place at IEM Summer, 4th the Blast Final, and then 9th, 12th at Cologne. And yeah, the only event they played there where they came in second place was with ZTR. And yeah, I think to like go back to the greater picture of NiP just deciding to say we're going to stick with Linus, it's like they just went so hard on getting this Device pickup, and then they're just going through this revolving door of fifths now that, or I guess it's not even a revolving door. It's just they just decided to pick up a mediocre player. That just feels like such a wasted opportunity. Like when you get LeBron James on the Lakers, you get Anthony Davis to back him up. You don't get like just some random dude. So like it doesn't make sense that that they just decide to go with this kind of move, because Plopsky is already having enough difficulty in his own role on the team. Like that kind of was NiP's weak link for a while, and you think maybe if anybody gets replaced, it's Plopsky, but it's like now he's not even the lowest guy on the totem pole. There's a lower person, and that's the last thing you're supposed to do when you're getting a hallmark superstar like device. So I just everything rubbed me the wrong way as soon as Hampus on the HLTV Confirmed podcast told everybody that, NiP is just going through all the roster moves and they're not telling us, and whatever they do,
Yes.
and then we just have to deal with it. And like, is that really any way to run some kind of a team like this? Like, surely not. So everything that's been going on in the NiP camp, from their social media presence to how they're running the team, it's just rubbing me the wrong way. The only good thing that they've been doing is they've been doing nice vlogs where device is getting a lot of quotes out of them. That's the only thing that's helped me for my job.
By the way, since we've done all the points now, we're going to end the episode in a second. Actually, I wanted to ask you, apEX, in light of what we said earlier, it must be wild coming from the French scene, because if people don't know, in the early 2 or 3 years of CSGO, the main two nationalities were Swedish and French. Like, those were the top teams. Everyone usually had at least 2 top teams, and these were the teams winning the majors. These were the teams that were right up there with the best. Obviously, mild consideration given to the Poles and then the Danish teams, etc. But it was mainly France and Sweden. It must be crazy, dude, seeing Sweden with both of their teams now, NiP and Fnatic. Fnatic isn't even Swedish anymore. That already blows my mind, dude. But then the idea that, NiP, even when they get the next player, there sort of isn't an next player. That's why they themselves are swapping around, and searching for literally, amateur players. Is it weird to see Sweden just, it's just not Sweden what we used to see in the past, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think we are at the same moment of the country career, I would say, in Counter-Strike. I think both countries are lacking in game leaders. That's the main thing.
Yes.
Real, Ampus was in game leader before and sometimes not, etc. Golden has been great in game leader, I think, but it didn't work out with Fnatic at the end. They're lacking maybe in game leaders under, I don't know what's going on, but it's exactly the same shit than France. In France before, we had Existence and Happy, both did their work to grow the scene, help the scene to just get better. And now, we have not many people. I think if we had a big in-game leader in France, I wouldn't have been in-game leader. Maybe, I don't know. So that's what we're lacking. I think that's what they're lacking as well. They have almost no one to replace. That's why they tried until the end with Golden, for example.
Yes.
Because they had no other choices, and that's why. That's the case for France and Sweden, but that's also the case for the CSGO scene. We're lacking so many in-game leaders. I think the value of in-game leaders, the good in-game leaders, has been rising up. We could see with the Taraways or all the things. Yes. I think they're really more considered than before. Having a great in-game leader. In the past, you could kick your in-game leader and say, we're gonna get better. The end situation, for example. Let's take the example, has been one of the worst move ever. Of course. Even though they have their own problems, and I'm not talking about it. I'm just talking about the move itself.
Yeah, of course.
And after that, I think every team understood that the in-game leader is as important as the star player. And that's how CS works out. Maybe a bit differently in some region, but I think that's how it works out. And it's unfortunate to see that. And I hope. The main problem with that is that all the players now are coming from FACEIT, FPL, and no one think about roles. They just want to have the best statistics. So I think that's how it works in the industry right now. No one wants to call on FACEIT, no one wants to be a caller, and I hope we're gonna get more and more caller in the next generation, because otherwise it will be really bad for Counter-Strike. Even though now we have we're lacking in-game leaders. We're lacking a lot of in-game leaders in the good teams. And that's it.
Yeah, if people want to just see the value of an in-game leader, just go watch Cologne with FaZe and Astralis. Those two teams on paper had no business being in the semi-finals, but those two IGLs just basically took everyone to school, didn't they?
Exactly, I agree.
This video was kindly supported by Kris with a K, Lager15, Matt Pugnatio Rajcula, Shenlong, Travis Goff, Wisetown, Zachary Carter, Zack Schmidt, Adam Ochs, Alexander Rao, Animosity, Butt Pounder 420, Kris, ErikHillestad, Hades, Jdubs, Jensen Goh, John Shelton, Joseph Ginsburg, Kovacevicd, Tobias Bernasconi, Zoomba, Zyrathenia, and a special thanks goes out to both Jerky's Minion and Joshua Gardner. Would you like to suggest a topic or a guest for my content? Maybe you want to ask one of those questions for my video AMA. Do you want teasers? Find out who the guests are for my upcoming shows. Maybe you even want to be a nerd having a long 2 or 3 hour discussion with me about anything on one of those video discussions. Well, if so, put your money where your mouth is. Join the Skrilluminati today via the Patreon link in the description box below.